for education and beginning in September of this year.
But not everyone is happy about this.
There are some people who are hell rich. They make money out of business, but they don't pay tax for this. But with the tax, the tax identification number, I think the government will be able to track or trace those people.
We'll assess it and bring you more details and reactions to the 2019 Impuntuo budget the minority is describing as hopeless. Also, RTI coalition vows to pile pressure on government to get the nearly 2-decade-old bill passed despite arrest of one of its spokespersons by police in Parliament earlier today.
You take my phone. I am standing on the road. You want to take my phone? I have not videoed you.
We'll hear from Elvis Dak, who has since been released, and hear from the police.
And in business, government to spend 14.5 billion cedis more than revenue mobilized as Finance Minister present the 2019 budget aimed at growing the economy and creating the required jobs.
Finance Minister repeats to sports fraternity what we already know about Ghana hosting the 2018 Women's AFCON and the All Africa Games 2023. But he affirms sports will have a percentage of the overall infrastructural budget of $2.5 billion for 2019.
And later on, flip side, the ultimate sacrifice by some minority members of parliament, which caught the eye of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta during the budget presentation.
The members of the minority in parliament have decided to lead the campaign for a cleaner environment by dumping their gasoline Toyota Land Cruisers to ride bicycles to work.
We have details of this and many more coming up in this edition of Newsnight. You can join us with your comments and thoughts on all stories you will be hearing on 0244340437, 0244340437. Thank you for joining us.
I am MFR Power and I'll be here with Komla Adum, but we'll continue the discussion on the highlights of the budget with Mr. Ato Forson, who is with me in the studios. We've also get to hear some reactions and also speak to Professor Godfred Bokping. Dr. Marcus Ibeyebwa will hopefully join us again on the phone line, but we'll be right back after the break. Do stay with us.
Success of our trusted, innovative financial services, providing affiliation, supports and solutions, customer-oriented, superior services. Your success of our 10 good years of loyalty, service with integrity, protective of our Ghanaian brand. 10 years of excellence, 10 years of loyalty. Your success of passion, oh yeah. Your success of passion.
Your success, our passion.
Hello, I say, how did you know? Vodafone normal 10 megabyte free data. It will call Smart Rubiadron. Share.
Hello, have you heard that Vodafone is giving 10 megabyte free data for every minute you talk? You just dial 50-50.
Yeah, hello? Aha! Right now, with the Vodafone people, just they call plenty. Sake of us, you talk 1 minute, you go get 10 megabytes. You talk 2 minutes, you go get 20 megabytes. 3 minutes.
Call Vodafone or any network and get 10 megabytes of free data every minute you talk. It's simple. Talk to browse. The more you talk, the more data you get. Dial 50-50 to subscribe. Talk more, browse more. Terms and conditions apply.
The future is exciting. Ready?
Let me explain in here. I'm a mistake where I use cement for all your projects. That's why Gassem, with 50 years experience, want to develop various greater, what are your various jobs? What was super rapid 32.5 hours? On know you're suitable for your dream house. As your screening or the Duchy Nazi or plastering or man a perfect finish. Gassem, what was super strong 42.5 hours? Or your best suited for slab, pavement blocks, Nasezicha blocks, Nankasa, Archie pumping. For the biggest construction works like roads, bridges, on your high-rise buildings, contractor and use Gassem Extra 42.5N. Missing it be there. Choose Gassem always.
Gassem, the nation builder.
Nationwide Medical Insurance, the leader in private health insurance, has deployed superior technology to make your healthcare experience more convenient and exciting. With the Nationwide mobile app, you can order your prescription drugs and we will deliver to your doorsteps. With over 600 dependable healthcare service providers, you're just a step away locating your service provider of choice and accessing hospital claim information in real time. Our corporate clients are guaranteed timely corporate utilization reports. We provide on-site clinics to give employees access to healthcare in the comfort of their offices. Enjoy these amazing benefits and so much more by signing on to Nationwide Medical Insurance today. Call us on toll-free number 0800-222222 or visit our website www.nationwidemh.com. Nationwide Medical Insurance. Join the healthcare family.
Joy 99.7 FM.
You're welcome back to the special edition of Top Story and Newsnight, I should say, is the budget edition. With me here, MFR Power, and of course, Komla Adom. We have in the studios also Mr. Ato Forsing. He's a former Deputy Finance Minister and Minority Spokesperson on Finance. Also on the phone earlier, we had Dr. Marcus Sebeyeboa. He's a Chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament. We'll definitely raise him back on the phone again. Then we can wrap up our discussion with the two of them here on this issue about the budget. And already the minority say is an empty budget, is unachievable. The majority, of course, disagrees. Dead on arrival, he says. But we'll see how dead on arrival it is. But away from the politicians also, we can hear from people who are directly affected by government's financial policy and programs. Let's first hear from spare parts dealers at Abosokai.
Some petroleum taxes has been way from about, let's say, 17 to 13 and etc. I hope things will change a little. So we haven't got real into the budget system, but I will listen and see where maybe. I hope this year it will be better. This budget will be better than previously.
I hope so. Once a government has come in and solving a problem, something like Dumso, the time we came here, you see that our light is on. The government is trying. But the previous one, he promised a lot, but we didn't see any improvement. So we are hoping that things will improve. Yeah.
It's true. The way you ask the question, you have been facing many of these questions over here. Sometimes you come and ask about budgets. To me, when they read budget in Ghana, what they read on the day is different from what they do when the year comes. So today's budget, they have mentioned a lot about the importers. Well, we saw the same thing last year. They told us that there will be a reduction in the taxes, the import taxes and import duties. But yet, we are crying for it. So what shows that they will do it this time? To me, unless we reach next year and we go to clear our goods, then we see that, okay, what they said last year has taken effect. Unless I cannot say anything.
Okay, to me, about the budget now, no. For me, like the first one, every year they have written the budget. To me, about Bosoka, I have not get any benefit from it. The same thing. They will say it's sweet there, but when you go to the market or when you go to the port or wherever it is, I've not been getting anything from it. So for me, I can say the whole day, since morning when the man started about the budget, I haven't listened to radio because it's the same story. They will send you sweet on the pyramid there. When you come outside, you won't get anything. So I haven't listened to it. Maybe after I'll go to online and check some things. That's all.
Well, the Ghana Union of Traders Association also wants a clear direction on government procurement. Here's National President Dr. Joseph Obing.
The government builds roads. Well, if the government built schools, hospitals, and all these things. For instance, I'm in the electrical business. Then it's expected that I'll be able to say a lot of because is building related. Then we are expected that it will trickle down. But our problem is with the procurement arrangement as it is at where now. That's why we raise this issue that the procurement arrangement should be looked at so that it shouldn't be a one winner takes all. That if these things can be broken into lots, then it will then benefit all of us.
So for the Ghana Union of Traders Association, you're looking at procurement processes as far as the focus on infrastructure is concerned. You're looking at procurement processes that will benefit your members.
doubling. Because the present arrangement, you see that he put a figure of about 2 billion on it. Then it should be shared proportionally, that everybody should get. But if in a case that the procurement of these materials will be won by just one single person to be doing for a particular aspect of the project, then it's not trickling down on it.
So you had GUTA President Dr. Obeng there. We'll bring in Mr. Atuforsen shortly. But before we do that, let's hear from Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng and Chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Marcus Ibeyebwa, whom we are having difficulty raising on the phone.
The central bank is doing work cleaning up the problems of the banking sector. So far, I'm satisfied with the outcome. 11 billion of central government fiscals going to stabilize the financial sector. I think it's good. It's kept the stability. I am not too sure that more banks are going to collapse. I don't know. But it is my expectation that all that should lead into a better financial sector that would be able to power the kind of economic growth we want for this country. That is our vision.
Right. Now, let's look at your performance over 2018. Clearly, your revenue targets were not met. What are the lessons that you've learned from that?
Well, in terms of the revenue, we missed the targets. But if you would consider revenue year after year, really, we are not performing any worse than we did in recent years. The reason we see what we consider to be revenue shortfalls is because of the projections we make. We think that we should be able to mobilize more as a country.
I'm looking at the deficit, 4.2%. I'm impressed because that has been our bane. Over the years, we would spend what we don't have. So now we are living within our means, cutting our coats according to our profit. What I'm impressed about is that I see capital expenditure. So the focus of this 2019 budget, having had macro stability, having had enough social spending. Now the next level would be to see infrastructure spending, and this budget addresses that adequately.
Right. Now, there are a couple of surprises. One U-turn, at least, on the issue of the tax bracket.
Yeah, I think that's a listening government. You introduce a new band, and then you have people complaining, and then you listen. Okay, so they've gone back, they revised it, and increased the band. I think it's a good thing.
So you have the Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng and also Chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Marcus Ibeyebwa. With us in the studio is also Mr. Atuforsen, a minority spokesperson on finance. For him, the budget is dead on arrival. But you sit here and say that the budget is dead on arrival when we're hearing that the fight against corruption has been taking a notch higher. 180 million Ghana cedis have been allotted to the Office of the Special Prosecutor, LI, to be laid and all that. And there's a lot being done in the area of corruption. For instance, Century Bond will be introduced. Free SHS going to be improved in 2019. Also, a Ghana Beyond Aid Charter will be introduced. Textiles industry will also be getting the tax stamps to improve the textile industry. Ghana is working again. Yet you sit here and say that the budget is dead on arrival.
MFA, the answer is exactly in what we heard from our brothers in Abossey-Okai. A guy in Abossey-Okai, and let me paraphrase him. He said that what is normally read is different from what is normally different from what is normally done.
Is that what you did?
Let me tell you something, MFA. What is this fuss about infrastructure and creating impression that this budget is going to solve our infrastructure needs? What is in the budget? The infrastructure allocation in the budget or capital expenditure allocation in the budget is about 2.5 billion. In GDP terms, it's 2.5%. 2016, in GDP terms, we did 4.6% of GDP. So in real terms, what we did in 2016 is almost twice of what they have proposed. Last year, in 2017, capital budget was approximately 3% of GDP. So even in 2017, it's better than this year. The infrastructure budget they are talking about, and I've heard them talk about Sino-Hydro. Sino-Hydro, for instance, it is 500 million MFA. What Parliament has approved is $500 million. that $500 million will be drawn down over a period of 24 to 36 months, not 1 year. And so, on average, if it's 36 months, then you are going to spend about $160 million a year. If indeed it is, let me put it, let's say 24 months, it's about $250 million. So I'm not expecting so much in terms of infrastructure. I'll take you to railway. The Ministry of Railway budget, in there, you have the CAPEX, domestically financed, GOG, and in this case, they use ABFA. You know what is there? 95 million. And I've heard the finance minister making a statement that they are going to use that 95 million to fix the railway lines that has been abandoned for 50 years. How can you do that? How can you do that? So the guy in Abosokan is very right. What is normally said, and look, this budget is like a grammar book for me.
Is it?
Yes, it's a grammar book because it's just nice English, but it's not supported by the numbers.
You are just being typically minority. That's what
the numbers does not support it. Because I'm giving you the numbers in the budget. They are honest, not my budget statements. The numbers in the budget statement. Out of the capital expenditure, 8.5 billion. What is going into domestically financed capital expenditure is about 3.5 billion. That 3.5 billion, that amount is even inadequate to pay for arrests sitting at the Ministry of Roads and Highways. At road contractors, how much they owe them? It's not even enough to pay for that. Yet you have capped road fund, and you can't even pay road fund contractors. What is going on? And you create impression that you are going to have so much money to be able to fix build infrastructure. Where is the money coming from? In the budget statement, they are telling us that they are going to borrow 3 billion from the international bond market, Eurobond. But when you come to the appendices, what is there as financing is $2 billion. 9.6 billion, that is what is this. The 9.6 billion, you are using that to fund capital expenditure, domestically capital expenditure of 3.3 billion. So what they are telling us is that they are going to the bond market to borrow for consumption. You are going to borrow for consumption. That is what they are telling us. And this is what is in the budget statement. So for me, I don't see a budget statement that should inspire hope. In fact, this is hopeless. There's no hope in this budget statement.
You say it's hopeless, but you see, before the budget was even read, there were some predictions that you made. Last year, you did the same. It didn't come to pass.
MFA.
This year also, a number of predictions you made.
MFA.
Did they come to pass?
MFA.
It looks like you're just...
Let me say a number of points. It's the same minority that said that the debt to GDP by December will hit 170 million. We said, as part of our roundtable, that the debt to GDP by end of December will hit 170 billion. Today, the finance minister has come to inform all of us that even in September, the debt to GDP is already 170.1 billion. So what do you think? We've got it right. Number two, it's the same minority that cautioned the finance minister that the 35% PIT band is regressive because PIT is not only paid by employees, it's also paid by self-employed. And so if I'm a self-employed, I sell at Abosokan, Okashi, or Sakaneshi market, and I'm paying 35%, whilst a company pays 25%, then it's regressive. There's big arbitrage. So I will end up paying more tax than a company. In fact, by taking it to 30%, for me, it's still too high because now self-employed who are earning 20,000 Ghana cedis per month as compared to a company, they will pay more taxes than a company. So I am of the opinion that they should have even abolished it. Yes, the minister decided to listen to us and do something about it, but I thought that he should have. Yes, of course, because we have sound from day one. You can check the parliamentary Hansards. We have cautioned this so many times and said to the minister that the earlier they remove it, the better. Yes, he has come to do something about it, but I think that he should listen to us more. Because we have a lot to offer.
Well, let's speak to the economists. We've heard from the politicians. We've heard from our people in Abosokan and also some traders as well. We'll just wrap up shortly with you, Mr. Forson, just before we let you go. But Professor Godfred Bokping is an economist. He's also with the University of Ghana Business School. Joins us on the line. Let's hear what for him were the highlights of today's budget. Also, were expectations met for him. We're grateful for your time, Dr. Godfred, Professor Godfred Bokping. So you've listened to the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. For you, what's so exciting about this budget?
Okay, good evening, and thank you very much for this opportunity. I think that there's an honest admission from the finance minister that some progress has been made, but a lot remains to be done. They are grateful to Ghanaians for their patience. They also appreciate the fact that the economy hasn't responded in the same way that perhaps they had expected. But by and large, I think that we have made some good progress that we can build on. It's not that broad-based. It's not exactly what we wanted, but we understand the constraints. the constraints also in terms of a number of factors that are happening within this same period of the implementation of the budget, for which reason makes it very difficult to actually make sufficient progress. In the midst of tax abolishing some, tax revising some, and all of that, I think it is clear that our revenue envelope is not exactly what we wanted it to be. Our expenditure is way up there, and these are issues that will not disappear over a 2-year period, will not disappear over a 4-year period. It requires consistency, and I think that is what is important. I'm also happy to the extent that they've done something about the 35% rate that they introduced in the mid-year budget. I think that also shows that they are listening to Ghanaians. In terms of the credit, maybe the opposition and the others, they will look at the formula to share it. But I think it's good for all of us going forward. You will still observe from the government allocation function that the problems haven't disappeared. So when you look at how much government is hoping to generate by way of tax revenue, and how they intend to allocate that, there's still a problem there. So you see how much we are setting aside for wages, salaries, and all of that is so huge. The next biggest line item there is debt servicing. So we are setting aside so much to service our debt relative to how much we are setting aside for capital expenditure. That is an issue. Of course, it's not something that will disappear overnight and all of that. It requires a lot of work. It requires commitment. But then again, when you look at government's own review of their performance in the last couple of months, it tells you that they are on target largely because the focus for the past 1.5 years is mainly macroeconomic stability. We also do recognize that it's not an end in itself. So if you look at inflation, where it was end of 2016, and then where it was end of 2017, and where it is today, I think you have to be exceptionally unique to say that that is not good work. Okay, then again, of course, we haven't seen interest rates coming down that much, but it's on the downward trend, which is also good. And the good thing now, what we have seen, in fact, 2017 and also 2018, we see that monetary policy is complementing the fiscal discipline that is coming from the Ministry of Finance, which is good. And you can see that reflecting in the policy rate coming down. But of course, we haven't seen that translating significantly to a reduction in the ultimate lending rate. But we are hoping that even with the introduction of the Ghana reference rate, which is much more responsive in terms of macro level development, and also that going forward, this will translate to rate reduction for borrowers going forward. So whilst we say that certain progress have been made, I think it's also clear that there's a lot that has to be done. There's a lot that has to be done in terms of maintaining our infrastructure. Okay, we are running down our assets, we are running down our infrastructure, but we are not making sufficient provision towards maintaining them and also enhancing our asset base, because the huge infrastructure deficit imposes further restrictions on the growth drivers of the economy. You can also see that the non-oil real sector hasn't done quite well. And I think it's something that we have to focus on. And the various government interventions, I believe that with time, will begin to deliver inclusive growth. Because growth is only sustainable when it is inclusive. So you can see that what we have done so far by way of GDP growth is not exactly like what happened last year because of reduced oil production. So you can, and that tells you that our growth is driven largely by hydrocarbon production, and that growth is not inclusive. That growth is not broad-based. That is not the growth that would also deliver enhanced revenue envelope to the government. So then the question would be, what is the outcome of the planting for food and jobs and all of that? Perhaps it requires time. What it also means is that, because, reforms broadly are more effective if they are bundled together, and it requires time. We have to be consistent at it going forward. My real concern is that now that we are exiting the IMF, the tendency to overspend is a real concern. We've seen in the budget the measures that government is putting in place in terms of a law to cap the deficit at 5%, and then also keep to the zero financing of the budget deficit from the central bank. If we'll be able to keep to it, that is fine. But my fear is that even before the amendment, we had 10%, and we were always exceeding it. So we have beautiful laws that are observed more in breach than in compliance. And I believe that there are a lot of reforms, institutional reforms that would have to be done to be able to situate and anchor the gains that we have made, even with the IMF program.
Well, so having said that, Professor Bokpeng, briefly and finally, just before I let you off, having said that and knowing what you know and what you heard today, we are told we are going to get a stronger economy for jobs and prosperity. Are you hopeful of that?
Not so much. We all have to be moderate. It's just a budget. Good intentions. We cannot substitute it for accomplishment. It requires a clear implementation strategy to translate those good intentions into practical, useful outcomes that will be beneficial to every Ghanaian. So it's not a time to actually say, yes, we have arrived. It's what it tells us that there's a lot more work that we all have to do.
Well, Professor Bokpeng, I would want you to stay on just a little bit longer, just for a brief period. We would want to introduce another area that was talked about today also in the budget. A lot more people are talking about it. People are concerned about it. Komla, what is it?
And this is the tax identification number, which is the TIN. We are learning from the Finance Minister's presentation today that without this particular number, people will be unable or ineligible to access social services. So you are unable to access National Health Insurance Services, for example, driver's licenses, and many other social services. Let's listen to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
Government will broaden the tax net by simplifying payment of taxes through different routes under the guidance of GRA, including the elimination of paying for government services with cash, requiring that citizens show their TIN before accessing social services like free healthcare, free secondary school education, and beginning in September of this year. Other services like vehicle licensing and registration, passport services, banking services, as well as mobile money services, giving all persons and entities, regardless of residence status, an opportunity to honor their moral tax obligations that justify their access to public goods. Let us all, Mr. Speaker, give to Caesar what is Caesar's.
So, Professor Bokpeng, I'll start with you before I hear from Ato Forcing also on this. So, briefly, to access National Health Insurance, free SHS, even mobile money, I will need TIN. How feasible is that?
Well, yeah, that is the issue. We thought that we would need some period to reorient Ghanaians' mindset towards it, and then the process of acquiring it and the usage. But I think that it's obvious that time is not on our side, because these are all geared towards ensuring or formalizing the economy largely, and to also ensure we are able to rake in sufficient revenue. So for that reason, we can bear with government. And so what is important is that we have maybe if you haven't acquired it, you have from now to maybe about December ending or so to get it. Let's encourage every Ghanaian. Let's do the necessary education. Let's encourage every Ghanaian to get a thing. If we believe that is the way to go, then we have to work towards it. Of course, we can't wait for everybody. It has to start somewhere. So, and they have decided that this is the way they want to go. So I think that it's going to be a bit tough for those who are yet to get it and all of that. But I strongly believe that it's the right steps that they are taking.
We're grateful for your time, Professor Godfred Bokpeng. He's an economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Mr. Forcing is itching to make his own comments on everything he's heard so far. Yeah. So you heard the professor. We're wrapping up with you, Mr. Ato Forcing. It's good progress, not broad-based though, but he will be moderate in hoping that we'll get a stronger economy for jobs and prosperity, which is the theme for the 2019 budget. Your closing remarks and also your reactions to what you've heard so far, including the TIN issue.
Let me start with the TIN. I don't know how they are going to implement this and get it to work.
You don't know how?
Obviously, because
you just have to register.
The point is, if the intention is to ensure you can bring in people who have to pay tax, and let you say, and you say that if I'm going to go to hospital on National Health Insurance, I cannot have it. What happens to my 90-year-old mother or grandmother in the village? So the 90-year-old person who is a pensioner, who doesn't perform any taxable activity, is now being made to go and register for TIN before that person accesses health service. I mean, how feasible is that? It's not feasible. If you have a 16-year-old who is a minor and going to secondary school, trying to access free senior high school, and then you are saying that that person who is a minor but going to senior high school should register for tin. I mean, how can you do that? Because a minor, the person doesn't perform any taxable activity. And you are saying that that person should go and register for tin. How? It is not practicable. Please. So please, and this is the question that I've always asked the Ministry of Finance and the Finance Minister. You come out with policies like this, knowing very well that you cannot implement it. You just announce it, create some panic, let people feel that something is happening, but nothing is really happening. Nothing is happening. That thing, this is the way it is. It cannot work. And bet me, it cannot work. They have to revise it. I support tin, but not the way they've couched it here. To access social service, free SHS, a minor to register for tin, a 90-year-old man or lady grandfather to go and register for it, a child. I mean, what is this? To access mobile money? Is it a national ID card? Is the tin a national ID card? What is this? It won't work.
Well, that's your closing remarks, Mr. Ato Forson. We are really grateful for your time. He's a former Deputy Finance Minister, also minority spokesperson on finance.
Well, MFI, expectedly, this tin announcement has, generated mixed reactions from a section of the public. We've been speaking to some of them. While some of them think it's a welcome idea, others do not exactly think so. Let's listen to them.
I think it's a good decision because so far it's going to help even with the national identification card. So it makes people we don't get fake people knowing the national IDs and all that. And so I think it's a good idea.
Now people are able to embezzle money, people are able to embezzle funds, which it's very hard for it to be tracked. But and then there are also some people who are into business in Ghana now. There are some people who are hell rich. They make money out of business, but they don't pay tax for this. But with the tax, the tax identification number, I think the government will be able to track or trace those people. So I've decided not to register, but since it is to benefit the state and then also benefit me myself, I would register it.
They already have the national identification in place, so why don't they just streamline everything and make it okay? So we are using a national ID for things of these sorts. So why do they have to just separate them and make things? It's confusing to me, seriously.
So this thing is not needed, because if I don't have this, meaning if I'm critically sick or something, I can't be catered for or something. So I don't think there's a need for that.
So you heard there's some reactions from a section of the public, while some think it is a great idea. Many others do not think so. And a flood of messages on our WhatsApp console now. I'll take a couple of them. And this one from Kwabna Francis Onassis. It says, listen to the Mpuntu budget today. I hope next year the economy definitely will be awesome and taxes will be useful than previous years. And this one from Asantewaba Kwame. It says, just a fantastic budget from the Finance Minister. God bless President Akufo-Addo. And this one from Kofi Ima Ibwakwa. He says, in 2016, the Economic Intelligence Unit of UK predicted a strong macroeconomic growth for Ghana beginning 2017. So if today we have macroeconomic stability, it only means a strong foundation was laid as far back as 2016. This government has therefore not done any extraordinary things for the growth as we are witnessing. More of your messages coming through. And this one from Charles East Legon. He says, instead of us to pray and be optimistic that the 2019 budget reflects exactly on the economy, some of us, especially the minority, have turned into fire extinguishers trying to quench the flame of hope, all in the name of politics. God help us. Those are some of your comments coming through. You can still send more of your comments on our WhatsApp number 0244340437. Good time to invite George Riafe to bring us the latest.
So first was what? Is it a Juma budget? Now it's what?
It was a Sempa, then a Juma, now we have
Mpuntu. So Mpuntu, what does it mean?
Progress.
Development.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay. Interesting on that. So coming up in business, government to spend 14 billion Ghana cedis more than targeted revenue as Finance Minister present the 2019 budget aimed at building a stronger economy for jobs and prosperity. We'll hear the thoughts of an economist, Professor Peter Kote, on whether this budget will indeed create the required jobs and development, as well as some thoughts from the Deputy Minister of Finance, Kweku Kwarteng. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials, and Mark Auto Parts, distributors of Isuzu pickups and Chevy cars.
In this part of the world, we rise early, way before the sunrise. We plan, we pray,
We prep just so we are a step ahead. We keep the conversations going to stay connected to family, friends, and business. They say, Agrobeswa Ifrianopa. Start your day bright with MTN Kokroko. For only 1 Ghana cedi, you can enjoy 400 megabytes of data and 30 minutes of free MTN to MTN calls every day from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. everywhere you go. Dial *138# to buy MTN Kokroko bundle now.
The best, we stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
The new Ghana card is more than just a way to identify yourself. It opens you up to a world of benefits.
The sooner you register for your Ghana card, the closer you are to accessing a new world of secure transactions and services. The requirements to register are as follows:
a genuine birth certificate or a valid Ghanaian passport and personal information such as the name of your parents or legal guardians, residential address, and your digital address code.
If you don't have a birth certificate or a valid Ghanaian passport, don't worry. One relative or 2 members of the community who have been registered and have received their Ghana card can vouch for you under oath. You will, however, need your digital address code. You will not be allowed to register without it.
Any person who provides false information during this process is liable to prosecution, leading to the payment of a fine and/or serving a jail term.
Watch out for registration details in the media and the national identification team in your community. Make sure you register for your Ghana card.
Ghana card, connectivity, access, and progress.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. And government is hoping to spend 14.5 billion Ghana cedis more than revenue that is hoping to realize for next year. Now, the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced this when he presented the 2019 budget to Parliament today. There is more on this expenditure as well as other issues announced in the budget in this report.
The minister in the budget stated that in all, government is planning to spend 7.3 billion cedis for 2019, representing over 20% jump in what they are planning to spend in 2018. Out of this amount, wages and salaries would account for 19.4 billion cedis. 18.6 billion cedis will be advanced towards paying interest on loans secured. The finance minister, however, announced that government plans to finance a 14.5 billion cedi deficit by borrowing from local and foreign sources. On revenue, the minister announced that it plans to raise almost 60 billion cedis, 12 billion cedi more than what it hopes to raise for 2018. The minister also announced that new set of regulations will help achieve this revenue target.
Government will focus its revenue mobilization efforts on reforming revenue institutions, intensifying compliance measures, and broadening the tax network.
He also spoke about some relief for taxpayers in the country.
In view of the recent wage increases, wages around minimum wage levels have become partly taxable. In keeping with government commitment to lighten the tax burden of minimum wage earners at the lower levels of the wage ladder, minimum wage will attract no income tax.
Ken Ofori-Atta also announced the setting up of a 1 billion cedi mortgage fund to help improve financing of home ownership in the country. He announced that government plans to embark on the Eurobond next year to some $3 billion to finance infrastructure projects in the country. There was also the talk about the establishment of a corporation to manage the country.
And that was a Business Desk report. So in terms of expenditure, government is looking at 73.4 billion Ghana cedis as against a revenue target of almost 60 billion Ghana cedis. Now, the country's debt stock ending September reached 170 billion Ghana cedis. External debts accounted for 86 billion, whilst local, that is, monies borrowed from local firms also took about 84 billion Ghana cedis. Government is hoping to also realize $1.1 billion from oil revenue, that is for next year, at the benchmark price of $66 per barrel. Now, so let's hear more from Kuku Kwarteng, the Deputy Minister of Finance, assuring us that the deficit issue will be handled.
Well, the fact that which we call as a big difference between revenue and expenditure, when compared with the growth of the economy, is within reasonable limits to tell you that we are also preparing the economy to be able to pay back those expenditures. So don't be in a hurry to isolate it in nominal terms. Look at it as a percentage of GDP and you would see the improvements. What we are doing is this, that as a government, we have made many commitments to the people. We intend, for the sake of government credibility, to provide, to deliver on the commitment that we made. At the same time, you have a responsibility to create an environment for the private sector to grow the economy, create the jobs. Let people have jobs, and that is how they are going to reduce poverty for themselves. In order to do that, you need fiscal space. So you would see that we're doing a lot of partnership with the private sector, the Accra Takoradi, the Accra Tema, the rail lines, these are all PPP projects. That is how you get the economy running without really having to borrow onto the government's books.
Kuku Kwarteng is the Deputy Minister of Finance, giving us some assurance of how they plan to finance the deficit. So, will this budget bring about the needed growth and create the required jobs? Now, that's the question we could pose to an economist, Professor Peter Korte.
Well, the budget figures, as we see, to a large extent inspires hope. Because if you look at the GDP figures, they are quite decent GDP growth rates that have been achieved in 2018, third quarter, and also the projections for 2019. You see non-oil GDP growing as well. Inflation, you would see inflation also declining to single digit, although I have concerns about whether the single digit inflation is the optimal rate of inflation that we need, because there's a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Deficit 4-point-something%. That is quite an ambitious one, the target that has been set. That is even way higher than the convergence criteria for common currency. So I think we are being too austere, in my view. Perhaps anything around 5.5% would be much more reasonable. If we cut down expenditure too high or too much, we are likely to affect the economy. There will not be a lot of spending, and that can affect economic activity within the country.
Peter Korte is an economist. And finally, Tullow Oil has assured that it plans to bring its corrective works on that equipment used in extracting oil from the seabed. That is the third bearing, that is this year, and is hoping also to end the year with the average production of around 81,000 barrels of crude oil. Now, this was contained in its trading statement that was released today. So, MFA Mpuntu budget.
Mpuntu. We look forward to it. Thanks very much, George.
That's it for business. Let's still do something closely related to all that's been happening today, which is the presentation of a budget, because something happened in Parliament.
Why the order that we can't stand even on a pavement? It's a security zone, so you can't. The road is a security zone. I'm telling you, if they are giving you think my phone.
So sounds of some disturbances, the MFR outside Parliament, where some members of the Right to Information Coalition had gathered to embark on what police describe as a silent protest. And they wielded placards with inscriptions such as "Pass the RTI to promote 1D, 1F, and information is power," among others. They say was to pile pressure on parliamentarians to pass the RTI bill. But this did not go too well because we know now that one of the spokespersons of the coalition was arrested. And he is Elvis Darko. He is the editor of the Final newspaper. He's been speaking to us about exactly what happened.
Military officer who was the vice president detail, they were in a 4-wheel drive. So he broke the placards and decided to go and dump it, cross the road to go and dump it in a dustbin. So then I took my phone to take the picture of his action, what he was doing. Then he got angry with another police officer. They came and then they attacked me and took my phone away from me. Then why did I take a picture of a police or military officer? And that is against the law. I shouldn't have done that. So they've seized my phone. I said, no, they can't seize my phone because the place is an open place. And if I take a picture of a public official on duty, I don't know what is wrong with that for them to take my phone. But it didn't work out. So then they said I should come with them to the police station at Parliament. So then I said, okay, I will walk. They said, no, I should board their vehicle. So then I had to board their vehicle.
You heard Elvis Darko, he's editor of the Final newspaper and one of the spokespersons for the RTI coalition. We've been also speaking to the police commander of the Parliament Police. He denies that Mr. Darko was actually arrested.
The chief inspector who called me, I didn't give any instruction for any arrest. What I said is he should bring the leader for me to talk to him, the procedure regarding coming to the Parliament House. So he was not arrested, and nobody gave instruction for him to be arrested. The gentleman was not arrested, but they came with him because I instructed they should bring him for me to explain to him. This is not the first time we are encountering. The last time they came, I explained to him. But I noticed that the gentleman himself didn't know that picketing on the road with those things also has some kind of breaches. So I explained to him, and then he understood it. So we had a very nice encounter, and I don't think he has any problem with the police.
MFR, so you heard the Parliament Police Commander DSP Elvis Otre speaking to us. But the coalition says this particular incident which occurred today would not stop their push to have the RTI passed. Listen to Elvis Darko.
In terms of, and it's important, in terms of the
chief inspector who called me, I didn't give any instruction for any.
There's no way it is going to affect the advocacy because we believe that this law is in the public interest. So the fact that Parliament could not even finish work on the bill as promised by the majority leader when we first came here on the 30th, we just said that let's just stand by the roadside and hold the placards so that as they drive by, they can see. So it's not that we didn't even have the intention of even crossing the wall and entering the floor of the premises of Parliament. That is why we decided to stand in front of the conference center rather instead of the other side, which they could be considered as part of Parliament. So we didn't have any action. We're not presenting a petition. We didn't have any. All that we were doing was just stand by the roadside and hold the placard.
You heard the Elvis Darko, spokesperson for the RTI coalition there.
Now, away from the budget, let's do some politics because more than 9,000 delegates of the opposition NDC will from tomorrow arrive here in the capital for the party's 9th National Delegates Conference this Saturday.
And 65 aspirants we know are slugging it out for various positions. And Vice Chair of the Planning Committee, Alex Segbefia, says all arrangements have been made for a successful Congress.
In terms of, and it's important, in terms of the dome, we intend to house something in the region of 13,000 people in the dome. 9,000 approximately who are delegates and 4,000 odd observers. And the observers will be segregated from the delegates. Only those with observer, delegates, and other recognized tags would be allowed into the dome. I can tell you that, as you can see, events are ongoing to make sure that we have a fully successful Congress on the Saturday, and that we hope that, bearing in mind what is happening in the country currently, you will be able to take news back that after the election that we held, we are holding on Saturday, the NDC as a political party is ready to take over the reins of governance come 2020.
Alex Segbefia, Vice Chair of the Planning Committee, speaking at a press conference from where my colleague Parker Wilson just returned and joins us in studio. Hello, Parker. You've just returned from this particular press conference and you've been speaking to Adekoka. What has he been saying?
Well, you know that he's the chairman here in the Greater Accra region, and he's the host chairman, I should say. Now he says that accommodation have been secured for delegate coming from far, and precisely the 3 regions in the North Brong-Ahafo region. And if you go to the Western region, for example, those within the the western north. He put it that way. So those within the NJ, the Seshi would also be coming tomorrow. But then if you are within the central region, western region, eastern region, it's going to be a day trip. So you come in the morning, partake in the process, and then return after the election, because they don't want too many people to crowd at the trade fair where they are going to have the elections. And we know that 72 hotels have been booked for these delegates who are coming for the event tomorrow.
How about security arrangements? Did they say how ready they are in terms of security?
The party says they are very ready. They talk about the security arrangement, that they are in talks with the Ghana Police Service. And of course, from tomorrow, they will be at the event ground to ensure that everything goes quite well. And again, on the day of the event, they don't want any individual, especially party members, to misbehave. He says that they want the party to keep a good name and ensure a successful Congress. And after the Congress, they will emerge victor and then become the next party to govern this country.
But you've been to the venue. What do you see? Does it look like the party is ready for this?
Well, clearly, every indication tells us that the party is very ready. If you go to Trade for example, you would witness or you see that candidates have their billboards erected all over the place, and some supporters have also decided to erect billboards. As at the time we were there, we realized that some supporters were there and then were erecting billboards of certain candidates. So clearly, everything at the trade fair shows that indeed the NDC is ready for Saturday's Congress.
Thank you very much, my colleague Kwesi Parker-Wilson. Let's still stay with the NDC. MFI, yesterday we spoke about Alote Jacobs and his feud seemingly with the General Secretary of the party, Johnson Esedu Nketia. Today, he is saying, tipping aspiring chairman Alhaji Hudu Yaya to emerge victorious to take at the end of close of polls on Saturday in the party's chairmanship race. And Mr. Yaya is facing stiff competition from 4 other individuals, including former Attorney General Betty Modi Idrisu. Mr. Jacobs is, however, optimistic a vote for the former General Secretary will better the chances of a party in the 2020 polls. And there's more in this following news desk report.
5 individuals will be on the ballot for the chairmanship slot on Saturday. They include first NDC General Secretary Alhaji Hudu Yaya, former Ghana High Commissioner to Malaysia Dan Abudakpi, NDC founding member Danny Annan, and former ministers Samuel Ofesu Ampofo and Betty Modi Idrisu. Alhaji Yaya is not new to this contest. He was up for the slot during the elections that returned Kofi Potofie as chairman. He withdrew his nomination days to the polls amidst claims he had been prevailed upon to step down. He remains optimistic of his chances come Saturday.
As a chairman, I wouldn't get up as an individual that I want to do a one-man show. First and foremost, mine is to keep the integrity of the party, to ensure that the party is strongly united. And when we win collectively.
Like Alhaji Yaya, Samuel Ofesu Ampofo can best be described as a party man, serving from as low as branch organizer, rising to become its director of elections. He believes he has served the party well and deserves the nod.
As an individual, I have dedicated the greater part of my working life towards serving the NDC in various capacities. And I believe that I have done what it takes. I understand the party. And I believe that I have spoken to all those who are movers and shakers of the party before coming to the conclusion of declaring to contest this election.
Betty Modi Idrisu, who is currently the first vice chairperson of the NDC, has already been tipped by Policy Research Group as SERPA to emerge victorious on Saturday. Not much has, however, been heard of a campaign tour of the country, just like Mr. Abudakpi and Danny Annan. Former Central Regional Chairman Alote Jacobs is confident Alhaji Yaya stands a better chance of winning.
I'm rooting for Alhaji Hudu Yaya. He has a background of experience. He's been twice the General Secretary of the NDC, and during his period, we never saw anything like divisions, groupings within the party.
The delegates will speak come Saturday.
You heard a news desk report there profiling all the aspirants and their chances in Saturday's polls. I think it's a good time to invite Baba Tando with the latest in sports. I'm sure something from the budget will feature.
Not much was said though, but let's see what Baba has.
So it was expected because from previous readings, we haven't heard much about sports in the budget.
In the
so Finance Minister only repeated what we know in the sports fraternity, of course, that we know the 2018 Women's AFCON is being hosted by Ghana. It will kick off on Saturday. He also mentioned again, or reminded us of the fact that we are hosting the 2023 All-Africa Games. Now, he was not specific about this bit, but he mentioned that the $2.5 billion infrastructural fund that has been allocated for 2019, you could only imagine or assume that it would include sporting facilities as well.
Youth and sports. Mr. Speaker, sports continues to be one of the key unifying factors in our country, bringing all of us together as one, irrespective of our differences. I am pleased to announce, Mr. Speaker, that Ghana is currently hosting the Confederation of African Football Women's Nations Cup. And we have also, Mr. Speaker, won the bid to host the 2023 All-Africa Games. Mr. Speaker, the Accra Sports Stadium has been renovated after a decade of neglect. Finally, sports-loving Ghanaians can go to the Accra Stadium and safely watch their favorite teams play. The government has additionally invested in 10 youth and sports centers of excellence in Accra, excellence in each of the 10 regions of Ghana, which are at various stages of development. In all, Mr. Speaker, we intend to spend over $2.5 billion in infrastructure in 2019.
Straight away, let me move to the 2018 Women's AFCON, which kicks off in a little under 48 hours. MFA, stop laughing. Now, the trophy, which will be lifted by the winner of the tournament, and hopefully this will be Ghana on December 1, has been on tour today. Official sponsor of CAF tournament and petroleum giants Total had the AFCON trophy visit their headquarters at Ridge and their Liberation Road station, after which it was taken to its final destination for the tour, the Lizzie Sports Complex. Fans were allowed to catch a glimpse of and take a photo with the cup. The exercise was aimed at increasing publicity for the tournament. Eric Franchini is managing director of Total Petroleum Ghana.
We are extremely proud to be the title sponsor, and we are proud that Ghana hosts this event. It's very good for football, it's very good for women empowerment, so we are extremely happy about that. You see the excitement of the team, so I hope that we really encourage everyone to go to the stadiums and to support the different teams. And obviously, we hope that the national team will do well. So I'm sure that people they will love to see the team playing. So it will be a great event for Ghana and a great event for Total as a sponsor. We will give our very best to make it a very nice event for Ghana.
So I'm sure that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta could have been nicer by wishing the Black Maidens and the Black Queens all the best in their various tournaments.
Let's do it on his behalf.
It's okay.
We wish them the very best.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Baba, with the latest in sport. But we cannot leave without doing flip side, MFA, and talk of sacrifices. Apart from Abraham's almost sacrificing his only son on God's instruction in the Bible, which other ultimate sacrifice do you remember?
Cain and Abel, there were a number of sacrifices in the Bible. I also sacrifice every day, so.
Well, today in Parliament, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta acknowledged what he calls some sacrifices by minority members in Parliament to promote a prosperous country. That's how we end today's edition, which is a special budget edition of Newsnight. I am Komla Adom.
I am MFA Paul. Thanks so much for your company.
I wish to thank you all, the citizens of this country, for your patience, perseverance, sacrifices that you have extended to this government. So far-reaching and non-partisan at times as this national sacrifice has been, that even now, the members